20, joined now in the studio by Battle Creek City Commissioner Lynn Ward Gray. Good morning.
Good morning, Richard. How are you?
Very well. Thank you for the time today.
No problem.
There has been some discussion and thus some change regarding the public comment portion at City Commission meetings, and so it seemed like an opportunity to not only talk about what the changes are, but figure out what's appropriate for those opportunities for the public. And so that's our intent today in these few minutes. What's changed, Lynn?
Really, it only boils down to one section of the ordinance. It was introduced at the first meeting of the City Commission and then recently adopted at our last meeting of the City Commission. And that basically says that the consent agenda and the regular resolution portion of the agenda are now combined for public comments, so that we can receive any comments on both of those sections at the same time.
Oh.
So if we hear from a citizen who is coming up to speak that they would like a particular resolution on the consent agenda to be moved to the regular portion, it can all happen at the same time, and we can hear those comments at the same time, which makes it much more streamlined and timely when you're talking about discussing those two portions of the agenda.
What's the difference between consent and the resolution agenda?
Well, the consent agenda are really a lot of regular routine items that are on our agenda that are procedural more so. And generally, there are not a lot of comments around those procedural items, so they are placed on the consent agenda so that they can all be addressed at one time as one lot, so to speak.
So generally, the comments portion probably doesn't have to do with that.
Generally, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's brief comments on an appointment, perhaps, or on minutes, things like that.
I see. All right. And so how long does a person have to speak? If they want to come and address you as a body, how much time do they have?
It varies on the portion of the agenda that they are addressing. So if I just walk through our agenda to give people an idea of what they would experience when they came to the meetings, we start with the invocation, Pledge of Allegiance, proclamations and awards, and then the chair notes any changes to the agenda, any added or deleted resolutions. Then there's a public hearing, and the public has an opportunity to speak 3 minutes on any public hearing items that are on the agenda. And then introduction of ordinances, they also have 3 minutes for that.
Okay.
Adoption of the ordinances for the following commission meeting agenda, they would also have 3 minutes for any adoption. And then it will bring us to the public comment regarding the consent agenda and resolutions that are not on the consent agenda, that combined one we were just talking about.
Right.
Residents have 5 minutes to discuss anything that they would like to on any portion of the consent agenda, items on the regular resolution portion.
Okay.
And then the commissions will comment on regular meeting business, and at that time, often if a commissioner wants to pull something from the consent agenda and move it to the regular portion, they would do so at that time if they want to have further discussion on it. And then the consent agenda is voted on by the commission, and then we move on to the regular resolution portion that is not concerning consent agenda business. We move on to all those resolutions, and then the general public comment occurs again, and they receive 3 minutes for that, and then commission comments, and then generally we adjourn at that point.
So there are a lot of opportunities for public comment, it seems, and some of them are restricted to related issues in certain parts of the agenda, but there is also a time if someone wants to talk about their curb being broken or a concern they have about a pothole or or something of that nature, they can bring that to you.
In the general public comments, they certainly can.
Mm-hmm.
When you're speaking on the consent agenda and the regular resolution portion of the agenda, we ask that you stay with those individual topics during that time. But in general public comment for the curb lawn or those other concerns or questions or thoughts, they can certainly bring those up during that time. We highly encourage for residents when they come to the city commission meeting to fill out a comment card. And if they fill out the comment card, that has their name and contact information on it, so that if it's not addressed during that particular meeting, if a commissioner doesn't pick up on that particular citizen question, the appropriate staff member can get back with them at the at an appropriate time. So it's logged, and then there's a way to follow up on that directly with that resident.
Were there any concerns about the changes to the public comments that have now been adopted?
Folks came through and were actually speaking on a different side of the business that we were talking about, and that's the minutes. The minutes had nothing to do with the resolution that we were introducing and adopting. It was the capture of the minutes and the public comments and how things were related. And actually, I think we have moved forward with that in the sense that in speaking with the mayor and some of the other commissioners, the request for more recording of the minutes as far as the name of the person who was speaking and the topic to which they spoke on be recorded instead of there were public comments or there were commission comments.
I see.
And the mayor was fine with that. The rest of the commissioners who expressed a concern, Commissioner Ferris, Commissioner Flores, all expressed during their commission comments that they would like to see at least the name and the topic, and that's fine. And residents will start to see that in the minutes.
Well, and that makes sense. I mean, if someone comes and addresses the curb lawn, for example, and you look back on those minutes under the previous previous procedure, it would not have said that. It would have just said there was public comment, and it wouldn't have been specific. Whereas now, as you've indicated, the subject matter at least would be noted.
Right, and that's completely fine. We were hearing from our attorney that those don't necessarily need to be in there, and we were really trying to make sure that we kind of moved our minutes through so that our city clerk could really focus on the multitude of jobs that the city clerk does, and that's been a whole lot of time on the minutes because they are recorded and they're available for you. So if someone wants to go back and listen to them and view them, they have that option if they want to get the details of what was going on. But those basic name and topic is perfectly fine. All
right. Are there occasions upon which a person, rather than coming to, say, general comment opportunities at the city commission, should just make contact with the commission in a different way, email or whatever the case may be?
We welcome that. Absolutely. Contrary to popular belief, the public comments and the comments that we receive from the citizens are all taken into account as we're making our decisions. As most folks know, I'm pretty visible. I'm out there, and a lot of the other commissioners are, and so you can stop us on the street. We try to attend most of the neighborhood planning council meetings. I have the distinction of having 4 different neighborhood planning councils within my one ward, so I'm at a lot of those meetings as well, hearing that public and resident feedback, and it's very important to what we do. And you'll find that the rest of the commissioners feel the same way about that. That really informs us on how we're moving forward on the business of the city.
Okay, fair enough. We appreciate the clarification. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Commissioner Lynn Ward Gray, Battle Creek City Commission, 820.